Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Pit Talk, pulling pits and opinions with your host, Gunny B, where service members help service members, period. Follow, like, subscribe everywhere you get your podcast and on most social media platforms. Let us know how we're doing. Any criticism is good criticism. And if your heart feels like donating, have at it. So jack of all trades, master of none, one-man show. If you like it, keep liking it and share it. Thanks a lot for the follows, though. I really appreciate it. We've got a special guest by the name of Gunny B. We'll keep it very, very broad. This gentleman took the time out of his busy schedule to kind of just give some insight on what's going on currently and just chop it up with us. Another Gunny, two Gunnys chopping it up. Go ahead and introduce yourself to the listeners. Go ahead.
Yeah, man. I'm Gunny B. I'm a counterintelligence agent, CI human specialist, 0211 with the Marine Corps. Been in about 17 years. Before I came over to this, I was a 03 type. So did a couple deployments as a grunt before making the move over to the CI human field. And currently, I'm assigned as a counterintelligence agent with the Naval Criminal Investigation Service in the Pacific Northwest.
It's okay if you put your mouth on it.
Okay.
The mic, guns, the mic. Nice, man. That's a very good introduction. I got you on for specifics, and I know you're going to give me what I want, hopefully, right? But I understand I understand if you don't. Thanks for coming on, taking the time. I appreciate it. I think the listeners are going to take a like it to this one. We had we had an OPSO come on the other day, and dude gave some great insight. I don't know if you listened to it or not, but Major Miller, if you know him or not.
I did, Mr. Worldwide.
Hey, there it is. Yeah, dude went off a little bit, and he kept it real, kept it honest, and I do appreciate that. So hopefully you're doing the same with us. Yeah, let's get right into it, man. You gave a good quick background. What got you to Washington, to this duty station specifically?
Yeah, previous to this, I was assigned Indo-PACOM, doing a lot of work with SOCOM out there as a human guy, so running sources, doing counterterrorism type stuff. And time came to move, and I've spent a good deal of time away from my family, and I kind of decided that I needed a little bit more family time, a little more work-life balance. So never used to believe that was a thing, but as I get a little older, I kind of realized, that time matters a lot. Yeah,
absolutely, man. I'll tell you what, you bring up a good point, man. The military, whatever service, I think mainly for the Marine Corps, but they trickle down here in anxiety and depression and work operations flows and all that good jazz, all the things. And they want you to give it all. While you're here, focus, right? But it's like 10 to 12 hours. And then you're like, okay, well, when do I decompress and go home? Or, when am I going to go home and decompress with the fam? And then you're going home and then you're still stupid stress about the next day because you still didn't go home early. And then they still promised you something, and it's not it. You know what I'm saying? Like it's a give and take relationship, and it's more give than take than anything, right?
Yeah, when I was younger, I didn't really believe in burnout, right? So it's just go. Yep. What's the next thing, right? Get back from one thing. What's the next deployment look like, right? And now as I get a little bit older, burnout's definitely, creeping up on me.
I got to take my lunches, man. I got to decompress. I don't know about you. I like to eat and just spend time with the fam. But let's get into it, man. I'll tell you what. There's a lot of things going on in the last couple of weeks. Yes. A lot of things happening with the civilian sector, maybe not the military, but the civilian sector. We got to talk about it, man, because you got a little bit of insight of what you do daily, right? And you can educate me because what I don't know is what I don't know, and knowing you is great, right? Because I got you in my Rolodex. But we talk about. Listen, I'm just going to start off in the conversation with you got to think, since regardless of political views, you have President Trump, right? Gets out of office. And the entire time, the 4 years, he was on the news front, good or bad. And he just stayed on the news front. Even after he left, he was still the face of the news, which is wild. And it gets a little, annoying and kind of just annoyed about it. Do you have anything else to talk about, right? And then, so it's kind of interesting to see that the last 8 years total, almost, he's still in the front of papers and it's just kind of weird. Like
he never stopped rallying.
Yeah, it's just weird. I don't understand that this guy is the focal point of a certain group of individuals is wild.
Yeah, I don't know how he has so much energy. Like all these rallies, all these campaign events, he's like constantly doing more and more and more stuff. And man, I get tired. I get tired. I have to, I do a brief for an hour and I'm smoked for the day. Right? I don't know how he gets up there and goes on 4 hour long rants.
Yeah.
But yeah, on the news cycle, I'm kind of getting tired of living in interesting times, right? So it seems like every day there's something new. And like, I mean, for instance, right now, just breaking, like probably 20 minutes before we started this thing, a Russian plot was disrupted to disrupt the Olympics, right? So it's just a nonstop, just barrage of major historical events.
Oh my goodness, that's wild. And I got to say, I started off the conversation with President Trump. All the last 8 years, almost, he's been on the forefront of news. Regardless of what he's doing, he's still the major talk for some odd reason. It's just weird to me, right? And then the assassination attempt, communication failures there, in my opinion, right? There's a lot of things that up and down the flagpole, people should be held accountable, I think. And then the head of Secret Service resigned. If you did not see that, she resigned at the beginning of the week.
Yep.
And then the commander-in-chief gave a brief about why he's not going to do another presidential term, which is great. I mean, to each their own. Whatever you decide. That's not what the point is. But while he was giving that brief, just a block away, what happened? Do you remember? Do you see that?
The protests.
The protests, Hamas lover protests, right? They freaking were at D.C. burning the flag, defacing the Liberty Bell, and I just got to say, if you're listening, like. And good, you could protest. I mean, you got those freedoms. That's what we sign up for. I give mine up a little bit so you can have yours, even though I don't agree with your shenanigans and hooligan stuff, right? But at the same time, as I was watching the protests, there's these signs like gays for Palestine, right, and gays for Hamas. I'm like, go ahead and take that over there and see if they have the same energy for you as you have here.
Yeah, you saw what BB said.
Yes.
He's like, that's like chickens for KFC.
Yeah, you might as well be chickens for KFC poster, which was the funniest thing ever. I don't think people like that, but it's reality. It's truth. Like, are you dumb or dumber? Like, I don't understand. I don't get that. So I don't know if you...
Yeah, it's definitely, from my perspective, I kind of look at everything with a little sort of a more conspiratorial take, right? A tinfoil hat, just given the nature of my job. But how much foreign influence is behind some of these protests, and we can prove without a doubt that there are elements of malign foreign influence behind this, money and things like that. But it's the useful idiots, right? Back in the old KGB days, the idea was you have people who are supporting your cause who are really doing things counterproductive to their own, well-being, and that's kind of what I see a little bit with a lot of these college kids out there today, and also they're young, right? So they really haven't got a chance to really see the world and understand how the world works. Like a lot of these guys just a year ago were living with their mom and dad, and they've never really experienced the world before. So maybe they're not as insightful as we probably give them credit for.
Yeah, but who do we blame, them or their parents for that?
Yeah,
a little bit of both, I think, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'd blame the parents for that, not educating their child thoroughly, right, about what it is that you're doing when you're running around like a horse with the Palestinian flag and burning our American flag. That's kind of just think what it looks like, right? The perception of what that is to your parents and to the world, right? I don't understand. Like our foreign adversaries are looking at what you're doing right now,
and they're loving it.
Yeah, right. Especially right. And I think about I just gotta say I'm very passionate about being in the service and just serving my country. Like if you're a service member, past or present, if you're listening, man, I gotta say if this doesn't upset you just a little bit, then maybe you should really do a gut check and just check yourself out just a smidge, right? Because you gave time away for your country. Yeah, maybe for school. Yeah, maybe for a better future. Sure, all those good things. But you served it. You served the country. You served America. And they're basically disrespecting you in a way, not directly, maybe indirectly, but they're disrespecting you in a way where, your service doesn't mean anything. That flag means a lot. It's almost like a beacon of America is still the greatest country in the world, regardless of what you think. right? I think, right?
Yeah, I'm all for people's right to protest, but there is something inside of me when I see somebody burn an American flag that really, kind of gets under my skin. So, I have that feeling. I think most service members do because, most of us have lost, especially in our generation, most of us have been over there. We lost friends over there. So, it means something a little bit different to us. And, for some of these, I don't want to get on a rant here.
Yeah,
but
get it, dog. Hey, this is your show. I'm just here learning, right?
Some of these kids who haven't done anything for the country yet, right, are out there burning American flag that, means so much to us, right? I'm all for the First Amendment, man.
Yeah.
All for it. Fight for it, right? But at the same time, you're pissing a lot of people off.
Yeah, for sure. And I seen on news yesterday or the day before, 700% uptick in registered voters in the last couple of days.
Yeah, bullet through the ear will do that, huh?
You know what I mean? And one side or the other takes, one side of the aisle takes credit because it's somebody running, but I don't think that's the reality of the 700% uptick. I think it's we're kind of, we're going away. We're going in a certain way, and we just got to change course a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that's what that is.
I think that that photo of former President Trump with the Secret Service around him, he's got that fist in the air,
yeah,
flag in the background. I think that's a rallying cry for a lot of people. That's, regardless of how you feel about him, that's some patriotic shit right there, dude.
Did you see? Hell yeah, it is, man. That's the Iwo Jima, the monument right in D.C. Right? It's just in history, right? I think I was reading the other day that picture should be the new Iwo Jima for Marines.
Yeah.
So that was the greatest thing that I've ever seen on social media so far. But it's just wild, man. We're living in history. You're right. You're living in history. Our foreign adversaries are loving what's going on here. And you talk about, you mentioned earlier, they're watching.
Oh yeah, they're watching everything on our news cycle. There's a malign hand of influence in there, kind of puppet master in some of this stuff, to some degree, at least. And then they're eating it up. They're loving what they're seeing. They want America divided because you're never going to conquer the United States in any way, shape, or form. The only way for our country to fall is to, do it internally, right? So
touch on that, man. I'd say you're never gonna. You're right, because the way our services are geolocated, right? It makes sense, right? Not to get specific, but it just goes all the way centrally located to wherever we're at, and you have a lot of the infantry battalions at the coast, right? Or the major installations at the coast for obvious reasons, right? And but touch on that piece, right? They're never gonna really boots on ground type of thing unless we're completely in chaos, right?
Yeah, you're not going to be able to defeat the American military, right? We have the world's largest Navy, world's largest Army. We have the top 3 world's largest air forces, right? The Air Force, Navy, and then the Army. So you'll never beat us militarily. The only way to defeat our country is to cause enough divide and enough sort of unrest internally for us to defeat ourselves. And I think that's kind of what you've been seeing over the last decade or so. And people can kind of point to divisive politics for that, but at the same time, everybody kind of needs to take a step back and be a little bit more open-minded to everybody else's perspective. And that's kind of a thing that I've been actively doing, since I went through intel training when I learned about biases. Kind of makes you think, like, confirmation bias, right? You tend to see your side in every sort of argument because you're looking for what it is that you believe. And I think a lot of people, just don't take that extra second to think about, is what I'm reading or is what I'm watching right now true, and what is the intent or purpose behind this this article or this message. But if everybody took a step back and kind of took a minute to look at the other side of everything that they're seeing, I think there'd be a whole lot less divisiveness.
You kind of touch on the current culture, agree to disagree, whatever you like, but the current culture is, they say this word called woke, right? Woke ideology that's going out there. And, whether you agree with it or disagree, it didn't matter to me, but it almost seems like communism, right? It's just a kind of a communist type of ideology where it's a groupthink ideology. You know, we tell you the experts have told you what to think, just fall in line, right? I think COVID did that for us, right?
Yeah.
And not necessarily good or bad. I think bad, right? Because it takes away from the individual right to think, to have an opinion, expressed opinion, right? And then now I'm telling you as an expert, this is what you should think. This is what you should do. Oh, well, he's the expert, right? That's where we're at. I think that's where we're at now, right? Don't you think?
Yeah, I think the word woke isn't really new. Well, the word itself is new, but like in the late 90s, it was, you know, PC, right? Early 2000s, politically correct was kind of the terminology for that. And it goes back all the way to like, you think the 60s, right? The hippies and Woodstock and all that movements, you know. It's just a different way of seeing the world. And I've talked to a lot of people that are, you know, quote unquote woke, and I kind of see their point in some things, right? Like they want the world to be a better place, and they, you know, feel like if everybody was nicer to each other and, you know, all that stuff.
Right.
And then there's the other view, which I would take as sort of the realist view, is, you know, not everybody's nice, right? There are bad people that do bad things for the sake of doing bad things, right? So, you know, just different perspectives. And I think once you kind of, you know, sit down and have those conversations, you have a little less animosity towards their perspective, because a lot of it is, you know, good-hearted. Right?
Right.
It's coming from the right place, I think. But, you know, this is also the real world. So.
Right. You got to take it with a grain of salt, man. I to your point, absolutely, right? We talk about progress, and we think about, just make it the last 100 years, right? We had slavery. Yes, we had segregation. We had women's rights to vote, women's rights to this, men to do that, you know, segregation. But if you didn't have healthy discourse, right? If we didn't disagree on things, America wouldn't be where they are now, right? So that's, to your point, we can't think the same. Because if we think the same, we'd still be in slavery. We'd still be in segregation. We'd still have women not voting. We'd still have this. We still have the, but we don't, because we disagree on things. And that's how why America is the way America is right now. We're the Liberty Bell for the world, right? We're that Statue of Liberty for the world, right? Everybody sees us and they see freedoms that they don't have necessarily in the countries, right? And that's what I think, you know, to your point, it probably does come from a good heart. Like, we just want to have good things happen to, you know, those people that are less fortunate. Great. That's great. Right. But don't take my money, because it's not their money. It's mine. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm working for this crap, right? Not you. But I agree. Like, if we don't have, even if you and me, if two Gunnies disagreed on certain things, I think we can be in the middle and say, okay, that makes sense. But we made progress, right? We just didn't stay away from it. We didn't Heisman each other, right? Or we didn't get mad at each other, never talk to each other again. We would have agree to disagree, but at least we met in the middle. And now I know you and you know me in a deeper way. And now we can have another conversation. You know what I'm saying? But I don't think that's the case. I think that they're telling, one side of the aisle is, you know, this is what you should do and what's what you think. The narrative is always changing, right? It's always, everybody has an agenda. And I got to get your opinion, man. It's just, look at what's happening in the last couple of weeks. It's history in the making, right? And the Secret Service, head of Secret Service denied, you know, resigned or whatever the case may be. But talk about that, because I know I spoke to you a couple of weeks earlier. But like, dude, how do you feel about that? That's crazy, you know?
Yeah.
You have all these entities working this, you know, this high-vis event. And you mentioned some tier stuff that I had no idea about, right? Touch on that a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I guess first is the stark contrast between, I watched both Oversight Committee hearings in their entirety. So Director Cheadle's from Secret Service and Director Ray from FBI. And just the stark contrast in the way that, you know, crisis communications was done, right? So it seemed like Director Cheadle kind of went in there with probably less information and just kind of faced the firing squad, right? And she just kind of took it. Her body language was very closed off. Yeah. She just kind of sat there and, you know, took those punches. Where Director Ray from the FBI really leaned in and made a real hard attempt to be as transparent as possible. And that transparency and sort of openness to communicate and willingness to share information is really what America wanted, right? So I think, you know, in terms, he did a lot better.
Yeah.
Therefore, be able
keep
to
your job.
keep your job. But yeah, as far as the whole assassination attempt goes, obviously still ongoing investigation. NCIS isn't involved in that investigation. But my personal opinion is, there are questions to be answered, right? And Americans want those answers, and as quickly as those answers can come out, that will help dispel a lot of the conspiracy theories. I have seen 100 different variations of conspiracy theories about this thing. And I think that's due in large part to how slow the information's come out. It gives people those gaps to be able to, infer, wild ideas about what it is that happened. But in time, it will all come out, and then there will still be conspiracy theories, right? Yeah. Just like every major event, there's always going to be conspiracy theories. But dispelling most of those with facts and data is the right way to go about it. And I don't think Director Cheadle did a very good job in
therefore the result, right?
Yeah.
The after actions of what the situation. I almost pitied her for a second. I'm like, God darn, dude. Did you not know that you were coming here to answer some questions?
Like punching bag, man.
Yeah. It was, and her face, like, she started off enthusiastic. Like, her face was like, I'm coming in here for questioning, and then slowly you can saw her non-verbal communicate. It's like almost sluggish. Like, oh, all right.
Yeah.
Well, this doesn't look good. Where I almost felt bad for her towards the end of it. I was like, got it.
In all fairness, she probably didn't have a lot of prep for her hearing, where Director Ray probably had a team prepping him for a week to give that hearing and giving him facts and data up until the moment he walked into that room. So the FBI does a very, very good job of crisis communication and crisis management. So they are professionals in that realm.
Yeah, absolutely. Always, apples and oranges. Yeah. Obviously, right. But talk about you talk about crisis communication, but the communication on the ground. There's a report that there was 3 or maybe 4 different lines of communication, and they were not all communicating in the same place.
Same radio. People. So I do a lot of special events, in a sort of a UC capacity or uncover capacity or surveillance or whatever the case may be. And not every entity is on the same sort of comm channels. Typically, we'll have a TOC or a Tactical Operations Center set up where there'll be a representative or a liaison from every entity in there, and that's where all the flow of communications comes into. I can assume in this event you had multiple different agencies working together, that each of them are on their own comm network, and they have a command post somewhere where all that kind of filters into. And that's for a wide variety of reasons. If I'm doing surveillance, then I don't want anybody else on that net besides the surveillance team, right? Because we have to have clear communication back and forth. But somebody needs to be able to relay out. So the surveillance commander will be able to relay out to the TOC and be able to inform them what's going on. I'm not sure where the breakdown of communication happened. I would assume that they had a command post, and I'd assume they had a liaison from each agency in there. I just don't know what their comm plan, what the comm flow looked like on that day. But especially in an event like we do, things like Fleet Week and stuff like that. And you'll have 10 different agencies working together. So you'll have Seattle PD and Washington State Patrol. You'll have Coast Guard, NCIS, Navy MAs. We'll have air assets and things like that. If everybody's on the same comm channel, you're not going to be able to hear anything. Yeah. So integrating all that is this is a standard thing. Secret Service does it all the time. I'm just not really sure what went wrong. As far as communication goes there. There's a lot, right? You talk about, you just mentioned, right? It all gets funneled into one place, their command post, and then that information should get relayed to whatever or whoever's in charge. And, I'm assuming it's the officer in charge. Well, that's the lingo I can assume that's what's going on, but it should have got relayed. We can only speculate, right? I haven't read up too much on it. I just know that at the face, there's a lot of things coming out, right? Secret Service was next to the building that the shooter was at, right? Did you see that? I did, yeah.
Holy mackerel. Like, it doesn't look good, right? It doesn't look good. And not that I support one or the other. It doesn't really care. I'm thoroughly indoctrinated devil dog. So my commander, she's my commander-in-chief. It doesn't matter, who it is, who she is, right? But it just doesn't look good.
Yeah, I would encourage everyone to sort of attempt to refrain from wild conspiracy theories and sort of let the investigation unfold and sort of make those determinations based on facts and data. It definitely doesn't look good. It is definitely a failure. It's never good when the former president gets shot in the ear, right?
Yeah.
So, like we're still probably a few weeks out, like as we're recording this, from having sort of a FBI coming out with a resolute answer and on all the details and all the questions that need to be answered. But I would encourage everyone to let them do their investigation.
Yeah, don't speculate for sure. I tell you what, it's kind of stressful to speculate. I just leave it there, man. Just let them report and do a report, and then months after, it'll probably the final thing will come out because this is a big deal. This is a big deal. So, agreed, Guns. I appreciate that. Because it doesn't look good. I'd say on the last note on this thing is, if there was a complete failure, which she did acknowledge it was a complete failure, she said yes, it was. Okay, great. And how do we move forward? What's the after action? Who else is getting accounted for? That's the biggest question. It was like, are we going to hold people accountable or just that one? And I think failure on leadership, and then who else in that chain of command should be held accountable. That's my biggest question. Is like, if we're in the realm of accountability, which these civilian problems are not military problems. I'll tell you what. And we can only say for Marine Corps, right? Because we're in the Marine Corps, and I got to say, good order and discipline. If I affect it, I'm going to get hemmed up, right? That's not the reality for civilians. Civilians got these whole, Bill of Rights, constitutional amendments, and constitutional freedoms, but they're not held to the standard that we are. For obvious reasons, right? We're contracted to be in the service, but
in the military, there's ruthless accountability.
Ruthless.
Right? So. If something goes wrong, someone is being held accountable, and in some cases, right, it's a guy who wasn't even there, right? It's it's the boss of the whole show, who's doing 3 other events at the same time. That event goes south. That guy's getting held accountable along with platoon commanders and company commanders that were responsible. So, accountability is a very real thing in the military, less so in the civilian world. Granted, those big events are, federated responsibility, right? People are responsible for different things, right? So the investigation will kind of determine what went wrong and where, and I'm sure there'll be accountability at some levels, but, less so than if they were uniformed service members. For sure.
Right. I will say, you said Fleet Week.
Fleet Week, coming up beginning of August in Seattle. Yep.
You're attending?
Yep.
I mean, I'm assuming you have to attend, right?
Yeah, I'll be working.
Oh, working! Yeah. Oh boy, you're enjoying this festivities. More like it.
Hopefully, I get to. Yeah.
First week you said of August. I'm about to go
first weekend in August.
I'm about to go look in Deltas, just walking the streets.
Oh, do it! Yeah, get you a free beer.
Yeah, take the family. I mean, it was a week-long event, right?
Yeah, I think they'll have the Blue Angels out there. They'll have some boat races, things like that. Tours of some Navy ships, and it's a good time. Definitely, I did it last year. Last year I was working as well, but it brought the family out, and they had a great time. Yeah,
it's gonna be busy, isn't it?
Oh, it's gonna be packed. Yeah. Oh, gosh. Yeah, Lake Washington gets real busy.
God darn it, where am I gonna park? Can I get a badge or anything?
I'll see what I can do.
Hey, it's all who you know nowadays, right? You know somebody on the ground. Hey, I got you a free parking pass. Hell yes, dog. Right to the front. And then there'd be no question we're going, right? But the parking situation is always in Seattle. Hey, there we go. I got you on. I got you. You got your specifics. I got your opinion. I got you. I get you're in the military, but you moved into CID.
CI Human. So we're different.
I'm sorry, CID. I'm sorry. O2. Yeah. You're not CID because that's a PMO thing, right? I think it's a PMO thing. So I apologize for that. Don't take offense. It was just misspoke. 2 different people, 2 different groups. What made you go from because you were infantry? Yeah. And now, what made you go?
Yeah. So my family's law enforcement, so I've always kind of had an interest in that side of the house, but. Really, when I was in Afghanistan, I worked with one of these HUMIT guys and kind of got to see what he was doing. And I was like, wow, that's really cool. This guy, some staff sergeant having a, massive battlefield impact, right? Sort of informing our operations. And I thought that was interesting. And then I was a SEER instructor, and while I was a SEER instructor, I worked with some CI HUMIT individuals. And, you know, I was like, I'm not, you know, not interested. I'm a grunt. I want to be a grunt forever. That's all I want to do. And the guy, you know, invited me out to lunch, paid for it, and said, hey, check it out. Like, this is kind of what we do. And I was like, you know, sold. He's talking about interrogations. He's talking about source operations and surveillance and all this stuff and how much of an impact you can have. And at the end of the day, what really sold me is he asked why I want to be in the infantry. And I was like, you know, because I care about Marines, right? I want to be around Marines, and I want to do sort of guy stuff. And I want to make sure my guys come back safe, right? Because we lost a lot of people in my first couple deployments. And I was like, I want to be the guy who makes sure everybody comes home, right? And he's like, well, this is how you do it, right?
Oh.
You will be able to find the threat left of bang, right? You'll be able to tell them where the IDs are at. You'll be able to tell them where to go so that the way they are safe. And that was kind of what sold me. I was like, okay, yeah. And what he said held true, right? You know, I've had some super impactful things. I've been fortunate enough to be able to do some super impactful things that have definitely saved lives, but on the HUMIT side, and then here on the CI side, some things that have, you know, real strategic level impact, you know, and sort of determine, you know, policy direction and, you know, determine where we're putting ships and where we're moving assets and things like that. So, you know, it's been, you know, you typically don't have this level of impact until you know, have a star or whatever.
Yeah.
I sort of inform those guys directly, and it's, you know, it's impactful and it's meaningful work. So, and I will continue to do it as long as, you know, the government allows me to do it.
Hell yeah. You were just talking about earlier. I hope that pans out. Cause I know you spoke about Randall. Hey, shout out to Randall Parks. He retired now, you know, doing the whole real estate thing and, you know, masters and whatever the freak you're doing. Appreciate you. But he was talking about, he mentioned, right, the Marine Corps didn't see eye to eye close to retirement, and he wanted just to keep doing cool stuff. Recon, deploy. That's just what he wants to do. You know, he wants to be a recon, but because he's a recon bubba, and he just wanted to do the deployments. Like, get me to where I can do those things, have real world impact on what I do. And they send him to a training squadron. That's the orders he got, a training unit. And he goes, F no. He goes, you promised me this, you know, promise me, what is that poster? You promised me roses, or you can't promise you roses for the Marine Corps. They promised him those good roses. And when they came out, he's like, nope, either you change it or I'm out. He goes, you can't talk to me that way, right, in the nutshell. You can't talk to me that way. Yes, I can. Is it either going to send me or I'm not going? He goes, well, then you're not going. He goes, well, you'll see my Appendix J here within 30 minutes. And during 30 minutes, his Appendix J was up at Headquarters Marine Corps. And long story short, it is what it is. And now he's out, and now he's retired and doing bigger, better things, right, doing the Lord's work there. But I hope that pans, you know, because sometimes at our point in career, right, you're more and more likely, right, because you're more senior, is eventually you're not going to see eye to eye. So you got to plan for that.
Yeah. It never hit me that I wasn't going to be in the Marine Corps forever until very recently. I work with a lot of guys who retired from the Marine Corps, got out early, and they're always talking about, you know, planning for what's next and making sure you're, you know, doing your TSP stuff and, you know, making sure you're, you know, aware of like what the VA is and what the benefits are, and, you know, planning for what's next after service. And yeah, that just kind of hit me over the last year or two that I might, you know, there will be a day where I'm no longer a Marine. So I'm kind of looking into that now and kind of determining, you know, where I'm going to land after this thing. But I will continue to wear the uniform and serve until, you know, until I'm no longer doing what I like.
But I mean, I always got to say that you infilled, you know, whatever year, date, whatever, but you got to prepare to exfil eventually. And I hope you're doing that, man, because I know that. Yeah, I mean, your body's getting old. I mean, I look at you, you're kind of withered away, you know, your beard's turning gray and, you know, your hairline's moving up and not down, right? So eventually it's going to get there, but I hope that it pans out for you, because I know that you mentioned where you want to go, and cool stuff is cool stuff. And I'm zealous for you, right? I should have lateral moved when I had the chance, but, you know, I was a Bravo, so this is what I'm stuck with. So I do support you, and I support your pain entitlements, and I do like it that I get to interact with you every once in a while, because I remember when we first met, you came in, I'm like, hey, dog, who the hell is this? Who's it? Like, is it a civilian that we work with? Nah, that's guns. I was like, oh, oh. And then we got to smoking and joking, chopping it up. And yeah, like I said, I mean, you're my Rolodex. So anytime I need something in that realm of, security or, whatever the freak you do. I don't even know what the freak you do at this point, to be honest. But
I'm available 24/7. I'm tethered to my phone.
Chain and block, dog. I know it. But yeah, I hope it pans out. I do appreciate it. Talk about, the transition from 03 to 02 and, the adversity you felt, transition for you and your family there. Was it what everything you expected, or was it hard, man?
Not easy, right? The application process to become a CI Human Marine isn't easy. And then the school is definitely not easy. It's one of the more stressful things that you will do. I joke and say that everything that I've done operationally in my career has been way easier than the school was. Wow. Because that was a nightmare.
Well, you're not selling it, so I just want you to know that.
We don't promise a rose garden.
There it is. You kept that from me. That's what I was looking for.
So the school was very difficult, and then you go out to your first station, and you're kind of a new guy all over again. Even though you might have been in 10, 12 years or whatever. Whenever you lateral move, you're still learning, trying to figure it out, learning from guys that are younger than you. And then once you start kind of figuring it out, you can start finding your own way in the job and figuring out what you enjoy doing and what your aptitudes kind of guide you towards. But there is something in the CI human field for everyone, right? We take from every MOS, right? So you might not think so, but there's something in this field for you. If you're a tech guy, we got tech stuff. If you're really into talking to people, we got stuff like that. If you're into cyber, we got stuff like that, right? So it's getting in the door. First step is find 211, talk to him, have that conversation, and see what you want, or see if it's something that you're interested in.
Is that something you think you'll do? Recruiting?
CI human recruiting? Yeah. Absolutely not. No, I will stay operational.
Why
as long as I can.
You like to talk to people. You're great at talking.
I like the operation side of this gig. There may come a time where like I need a break, and that's kind of something that we can kind of fall into is CI human recruiting. It's not necessarily a break though. If you talk to guys that have done it, it's a lot of work. Oh boy,
oh yeah, true. Recruiting is you got to travel a lot. I think you travel a lot now.
Yeah, sort of intermittently, right? But never for long periods of time, right? It's not like I'm doing 8-month deployments over and over again anymore. So
that's true. Maybe like a call here and there, 24 hours here and there.
Yeah,
that's fair. But the guns, again, we talk about giving back to the community, right? And we talk about adversity and resilience. It seems like you have some adversity under your belt, and even with directly and indirectly towards the previous MOS and now this MOS. Talk about that, man. How have you? There's a saying: adversity introduces a man to himself, right? And it seems like you have a lot of lessons learned. And share those lessons and where you're at now with you and your family, with your significant family, friends, mothers, whoever it is that you still have contact with.
This job is hard on family, right? Being in the military is difficult on family, and finding that balance and finding that time to sort of commit to your family is extremely important. And when I was younger, and most younger guys now don't really see it that way. They're here for the job. The job's the most important thing in the world. But at the end of the day, you will take off this uniform, like you said, and who do you have left, right? Putting family first whenever you can is extremely important. And then one thing that I would also say is, friends are important as well. Having a community of people that you can talk to. Dude, I've been there. I've done 4 combat deployments, right? So, having guys that you can reach out to when you're, not quite clicking, right? Because other dudes have been through that same thing, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes, it's just having that conversation like, hey, man, like I'm not doing good right now. I think that's extremely important to have somebody you can reach out to. And it helps if that somebody's, not in your family. So that somebody in your friend group that you kind of trust and, that has that understanding of, where you guys have been and things like that. But I'm kind of realizing that more now, right, as I have, not a month goes by where somebody doesn't reach out to me just to talk and sort of have a conversation and, bounce ideas off me or whatever. And, it's becoming more and more important. And I think the transition part is hard for a lot of dudes, right? I know I've listened to one of your previous podcasts talking about the 22 a day thing. And, dude, a lot of guys get out of the service and they kind of move on. And, the Marine Corps marches on without you, right? And all your friends that are still in are, still in. They're still working, man. So you kind of get, away from that community, and that's when it gets hard, right? When you're alone dealing with problems. Yeah. So, dude, my recommendation is keep in contact with as many people as you can and keep that community going, because you never know, right? You never know what opportunities are going to come out of those, networking relationships. You never know who's going to be there to help you, and you never know when somebody's going to need you to sort of help them, right? So
that's crazy. 22 to 44 a day, man. If you're listening, you got Gunny B on the mic. But I appreciate your insight in terms of adversity and resilience. And can you talk about not real world, but a real relatable experience type of story? Because it's your story, right? It's your history currently, and we want to speak on it. We want to speak on your experience and how to help others. Comms is important, obviously, right? Communication is important up and down the chain, and just laterally and vertically. Why do dudes lose insight or purpose when they get out? I think there's identity problem, don't you think?
Yeah, if I left right now, I would be in the same spot. And like knowing everything I know now, right? I would immediately find something else to give me purpose. We're not alone in this, right? Law enforcement, I said my family's law enforcement, so law enforcement deals with the same thing. You retire from law enforcement, 2 years later, you're dead, right?
Is that? Well, calm down. Like, is that real?
Yeah.
What?
I mean, it's the truth of the matter is,
right.
Man, I wish I knew this guy's name. He has he gives these talks about, it's mostly towards law enforcement and firefighters. I'm blanking on his name right now, but what he says is you have 6 months after you retire, right? 6 months after you retire where your agency still gives a fuck about you, right? Your friends still give a fuck about you. But after that, time's up. They're marching on with their lives. They're still in the job. They're still getting it. And, staying tied in and, still having purpose after service is extremely important. And where you find that purpose is kind of on you, but maintaining a community while you're in and maintaining, having hobbies and things like that you want to do. But I've seen guys get out and, like, I'm just going to collect VA money or whatever. And then, you hear a year later that, so-and-so's, died in a car accident or, dead or whatever from suicide or all sorts of stuff. And, it sucks, but, planning that transition ahead of time and knowing, like, having goals and things like that, I think mitigates a lot of that stress. Having friends mitigates a lot of stress.
Yeah, I feel like men have more of a problem keeping friends or maintaining friends.
Yeah, dude, the wild thing about this is I have friends that I haven't talked to in, so my buddy Bryce just hit me up a couple weeks back, and we haven't talked in a year, right? And he just randomly hits me up out of the blue. And it's not like I have to reach out and talk to you every day, right? But it is, I have friends all over the world right now that, some of them I won't talk to for years, and we'll reconnect later. And, it's like everything's, just as it was whenever we.
Yeah. But I think that's a military trait that civilians don't understand.
Yeah, bro, we go on field ops. We're gone for a year. We come back, and it's even with our family, right?
Yeah.
I've done 7 deployments, and you're gone 8 months. Come back, back in it, right?
Right, back in it.
Yeah,
absolutely, dude. Talk about. I'm kind of interested on this Fleet Week thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't been
to look at a Navy boat.
Yeah. Well, okay, you little sass thing. You freaking no, man. I've never been to Fleet Week, but I just see pictures and videos. It was a great time. Sounded like a great time. Was it everything that it was supposed to be?
Yeah, it's definitely cool. The Blue Angels flight's cool, especially like watching it go around the Space Needle and fly over the city and fly over Lake Washington. Like, if you haven't been to a Blue Angel show, this one tops it, right?
Oh.
And then they'll have boat racing out on Lake Washington. That's also pretty cool. I like high-speed boats. tons of food vendors out. There's a bunch of military type stuff where they'll set up these booths, and you can kind of look at their equipment. And I think they're going to have artillery out there this year.
Ooh.
So you can go, look at a 155 or whatever they're bringing out if you're into that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, you could touch it.
I'm sure, yeah. Yeah.
Well, man, look, so you lap moved into 03. I mean, we're going back and forth, but it's okay because I love having conversations with you, to be honest. Every time you stop me in the corner, or every time I see you, I just run after you and pull you in. Wait, what you got for me today? What you got for me today? What's going on around? Actually, I got to go back to the previous point. Comms failure, right? They did mention that there was no aerial surveillance. Why is that an issue there and now currently?
Yeah, I mean, you have to have a FAA certified drone pilot, right? So if you don't have one, on staff, right, they've got their Part 107, they can fly for events and things like that. So staffing is an issue. Sometimes the equipment's an issue. They'll have a TFR in place for a lot of these events, temporary flight restrictions in place for these events. So working with FAA to get around that. So there are events where we don't have, unmanned surveillance assets available. And that's just due to manning or not having the equipment available. Right now there's tons of special events going around on all over the states.
Wow,
it's difficult to get those assets.
That's crazy. But yet we're in. I don't want to get personal or political. I don't really care, to be honest. But we're so much money. We're in sending money, but yet we're short on staff.
You're talking about money sending overseas? Yeah.
It's a little double standard in my opinion, but who am I? I don't know what goes on behind closed doors. It's not mine.
I don't know how budgeting or contracting works either.
It's national security apparently, so we don't know. We're not going to know ever. But it just seems if you're short staffed and there's some bureaucratic things that happen in terms of aerial communications or unmanned, whatever, what the lingo that you got to talk about. But how is it affecting us locally? That's an issue locally, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, our office is definitely undermanned, and that causes us, you have guys carrying 12 cases right now, especially on the criminal investigation side, which it's a lot of work, right? Where, you're just, checking boxes, getting through it as fast as you can. So it could cause, some diligence issues on some things, some oversights to be made. But yeah, manning is an issue. And I think our organization, so NCIS is sort of plussing up manning now, kind of to meet manning goals by FY25 or whatever it is. But every organization's kind of facing that. I envy conventional Marine forces because they're typically close to manning goals, right?
Right.
So having manpower matters a lot.
Yeah.
But as far as equipment shortfalls for us, not really. Hasn't really been an issue. So everything that I've asked for, I've gotten.
Well, I'm talking in terms of aerial surveillance. How is that?
Oh, out here.
The shooter, right? The shooter had the ability to fly his little thing around. And
yeah. So listening to Directors Ray talk about that. So unmanned systems is an issue, right? Unmanned systems is a national security issue. So I'm talking from, UAS, so unmanned aerial systems, to UUVs, unmanned underwater vehicles.
What?
Yeah, those are real underwater alien robots.
Wow.
So those things all produce different threat vectors that are difficult and take technology, money, and manpower to mitigate those threats. Pitch for 7 Seconds to Die. Good book.
Oh, I was about to get to it with this aerial thing.
Azerbaijan and Armenia, about that conflict. So first war fought and won using primarily unmanned systems. There's also a really good hour-long YouTube video from the guy who wrote the book, former Army Lieutenant Colonel, I believe. But unmanned systems is the war of the future, right? Swarms of unmanned vehicles taking out, a carrier or a DDG or something like that.
Yeah.
And, it's this constant battle to, find new ways to mitigate it. coming out of the war, so Ukraine and Russia, right now is sort of a battlefield lab of unmanned systems.
Really?
Super unique stuff, and super scary stuff. So the next war we fight, we need to be ready for both on the offensive side for using unmanned systems effectively, and then also on the defensive side, we need to have new tactics, techniques, and procedures to be able to mitigate the threat to our forces that we will undoubtedly experience in terms of unmanned systems. Navy's fighting this battle in all their warfare labs right now. Marine Corps is testing new innovative equipment on both sides of the house. So it's the curve here is near vertical in terms of research and development. It's an interesting problem set. We have that problem set out here in the Pacific Northwest. There's not a week that goes by that there's not a new UAS sort of media release type deal. Just today, actually, there was a ethically Chinese individual who pled guilty to espionage. He was flying an unmanned system over on the East Coast, doing spying on one of the Navy bases over there. So this is a problem. Yeah, that's a big problem.
Yeah, is it because there's not enough rules, or is it just they don't fly high enough to make it to regulate it? Is that what that is?
There are regulations, right? You can't fly above 400 feet, things like that. You can't fly within 3,000 feet of critical infrastructure or certain vessels. There's temporary flight restrictions, and there's notice to airmen that go out during movements and things like that. But overall, it's the threat surface is difficult to mitigate, right? So you have to be able to detect the thing first, and then what do you have to be able to stop it? Ukraine's using Mossberg 500s right now, and they're turning out to be pretty effective. But there are places where you can't fire a shotgun, right? Like Fleet Week is one example. I'm not going to be able to have dudes out there with shotguns down in drones, right? So you gotta use other forms of equipment.
Wow, that's crazy. You said unmanned underwater stuff?
Unmanned underwater vehicles, yeah. So unmanned sort of submarines.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, that was just some deep water stuff. I've seen some, National Geographic stuff. But you're talking about counter intel, offensive type equipment. That's crazy. Potentially,
right? You can put anything. You can put a payload on it.
That's true.
You can put cameras and sort of side scan sonars and things like that. You can have inertial navigation systems on there, so it's able to navigate underwater without obtaining GPS. So it can go deeper and further and longer. And
wow.
There's some unique stuff in the UV realm.
That's crazy.
And it's a threat, right?
You said national security, man. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
And then the borders they're just flowing in. Immigration is just flowing in like it's water. Like literally, it's just water, and that poses a threat. I mean, how long was that? You said breaking news that ethnically Chinese guy. How long was he here for? Was he?
Well, he was here on a
resident.
F1. No, he was an F1 visa. He was going to college up north, and
wow,
he flew down there and did his little espionage activity, and he ended up getting caught.
Wow.
He crashed his drone into a tree.
You're an idiot. So. He wasn't that prepared. Not well equipped, I guess.
Yeah.
Or he got.
I think it was a weather issue at the time.
Airspace got rough.
Yeah.
That's wild.
But that's going on all over the country, right? Like those are just the ones we catch, right? So.
What do you mean? We don't catch them all?
No,
this ain't Pokemon, or
no,
what
dude.
the frick?
No, we don't catch them all. I mean, another big issue right now, I guess over the last year or so that has been kind of trending in the CI world lexicon is gate crashers, right? So foreign nationals showing up at the gate, ostensibly to go to McDonald's or whatever, and they're trying to get on base to one, test our security measures for the installations, and then also to get on and see what they can see. So that's sort of another issue we're combating now. Cyber is another massive one, right? So there's, I think we kind of saw from the, what was the name of the Windows vulnerability? It wasn't Windows, it was something else. But
one of the softwares in, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
So we kind of see from that critical infrastructure is on the cyber side is huge, right? You don't want to down the U.S. infrastructure for a period of time. People start freaking out. You can kind of see that in Houston right now too.
Yeah, no, that's Houston. You said Houston?
Oh, Houston with the hurricane, right?
Right. Yeah. I was like, wait, what's going on in Texas? I didn't hear about.
People starting to attack linemen and stuff like that. Yeah. Like they see a lineman taking a lunch break and they don't have electricity, they're getting pretty pissed off, right? So I understand that these are humans that also need to eat and sleep, right? They're there to do a job. But,
oh shoot, I didn't even hear. I didn't know that they're attacking for real.
Yeah,
our desperate things.
Our civility is pretty fragile, right?
Yeah, right. It's true. Considering
you go a few days without electricity and Wi-Fi, people are going to be pretty upset.
Yeah. I can't scroll. That's wild. Well, I didn't even know. I got to look up into that. That's crazy. Well, national security or not, there's definitely some. We gotta take some of those funds and invest it here in our home, or America's, because it sounds like we're struggling. That's not good.
Yeah, I mean, there's just the number of threat surfaces that,
But you think it's going to get worse before it gets better? And we're pretty decisive right now as a country. We're pretty in chaos. There's no real law and order, really. In my opinion, anyways. I don't think there's real law and order. And without law and order, there's chaos. And right now, we're pretty chaotic, to be honest. And I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. That's my opinion, right? And I don't know. And with all this, you're talking about national security. It's a problem now. People are coming out the gate trying to test the water, so to speak, and they're getting more ballsy. I mean, unless they've been ballsy these last 10 years, I don't even know about it. Which probably that could be the case too, because I'm pretty ignorant. But to that side of the house, right?
No, there's definitely been an increase in all sorts of attempted espionage activity and collection activity on sort of not only in the military but the private sector as well, especially in the cyber realm. Companies being infiltrated, whether that's for ransomware attacks or whether that's for data exfiltration. It's definitely there is a market increase in the last decade of every single threat vector you can think of has gone up, and we are in trying. I mean, look at the world right now, right?
Yeah,
you have Russia, Ukraine, you have Israel, Hamas. You have the potential for China at any time. I mean, August 1st of 2027 is the 100-year anniversary of the PLA, and that's whenever President Xi said to be ready to take Taiwan by. I mean, they may move earlier, but then you have North Korea, South Korea. We still have Azerbaijan and Armenia going on. We have a crisis on our southern border. We have a fentanyl crisis, right, in our country right now, and you could see that. Just walk down the street in Seattle, right?
Oh yeah, good point.
Walk down Third in Seattle.
Jeez.
I mean, I do it with my kids, right? And it's a problem, right? The fentanyl is an issue here at home. Maybe not for some people out in the Midwest. Maybe they might not see it, but in every major city in the U.S., fentanyl is an issue.
That's a good point.
And that's ultimately a border security issue, right? So, but yeah, we have a lot of things to work through.
There's an uptick, obviously.
Yeah.
Wow.
Regardless of who the next administration is, they have a lot of problems to face, and they're going to have sort of the ownership to get things on the right track. So whoever gets elected next will be blamed for the successes or failures of what occurs in the next 4 years. I tend to say pretty apolitical, but that's a sort of heavy burden to bear with the amount of things that we have to kind of work through as a country right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You talk about the fentanyl problem. We were just in Seattle last week. My wife, the girls, I bought tickets for the girls to go to a concert, and we had to stay local because
What'd you guys see?
Well, they saw a group called Aventura. It's a Spanish group, a little bachata group, right? All the girls rave for Romeo Santos is his name, I think. I'm not a real fan of high-pitched singing, so no shade there. But either way, they went to a concert, and me and the boys, literally the boys and the young, the baby girl stayed local because we didn't want to drive back and forth to Seattle. It was an hour and a half. It was pointless, right? So we stayed local, and we kind of went to the park. And on the way to the park, my son goes, "Hey, what's going on over there?" I go, "What do you mean?" So I slow down because it's kind of pretty slow traffic. I slow down and I look. I go, "Oh, just come over here. Just face this way." They're obviously doing drugs because he's like, "Hey, what does that mean?" They were doing this number. I was like, right there in the street. He goes, "Yeah, look at it." And then I turned around. I was like, "Oh wow, that's just yeah. Oh, all right, just hit it. I guess that's not a big deal.
Yeah, I was over in Seattle yesterday watching a guy, middle of the day, smoke something off of aluminum foil. I was just like, all right.
All right.
I mean, it's so common though. They just kind of blend into the background, right? You hardly notice them unless you're kind of looking, right?
Yeah.
Just zombies out there.
Fuck.
It's unfortunate, right? But this is, if this problem existed in this scale 20 years ago, it would be a national emergency. But just because of everything else going on,
that's true.
It's just kind of overlooked, right?
Yeah, that's fair. That is fair. I mean, everybody's understaffed. Everybody's missing some gaps. They got gaps in. But I think, that's crazy. Fentanyl, border crisis. You talk about aerial surveillance, national security. You're throwing a lot at me, man. I'm getting
we've talked about a lot of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. What the 7 seconds to die? You mentioned that earlier, and that's the war of the future wars that we're going to be battling. Talk about the 7 seconds to die. I know I mentioned it earlier. I was reading it. I didn't finish reading the book, but you found interest in it. It's very interesting so far as I read. Yeah. Talk about it a little bit here.
I gave you a tabbed out copy, so you can just go to the tabs and look at the interesting stuff.
That's true.
But yeah, I mean, so I don't want to mess it up, so I don't want to go into too details because I've read other books since then. But essentially, Azerbaijan and Armenia went to war, and one side had invested heavily in technology and especially in the unmanned systems realm, using like Baytar, like Turkish aircraft or unmanned systems and things like that. And one side sort of went with the ways of old, right, where they dug in hardened fighting positions in the high ground, which is the way that wars have been fought forever. Yeah, and it did not pan out well for them because the technology curve has sort of surpassed what the tactics of old used to be. So, we are making investment. Every DoD entity, right? So all 5 branches or whatever is investing in unmanned systems, and then as far as research and development with DARPA and then the naval labs, right? So we have one here locally working on unmanned technology. Wow. And in every sort of capacity you can think of. Man,
no wonder you don't want to leave this job. You're doing some secret squirrel stuff, dude. The Lord's work. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's kind of nerd stuff, right?
No, that's not. I'm fully invested every time we have a conversation. What my deer in the headlights look like, damn, what the hell's going on? I don't even know about.
Trust me when I say I don't understand it, right? Like it's like they talk to me and they're talking like ones and zeros and stuff, and I just kind of stare blankly. I was like, all right, what do you need from me?
Just stop. How do I execute? Just tell me where to go. I'll execute there. That's crazy, dude.
I tell everybody I'm still just a dumb grunt, man. Just
yeah, right, dog.
Just point me in the right direction. Tell me what you need. I'll make sure it gets done.
Absolutely, man. Thank you for your time. I know you're going on a long weekend. Apparently by the shirt, so I
it's my Friday shirt.
Yeah, I bet. You wouldn't know if you were stationed in Hawaii, right? But one last thing, right? We always got to, again, we said it earlier, give back to community and how do we provide tools for the tool bag, so to speak, at the ready, right? And suicide's a big problem. We mentioned it earlier. But I got to ask, what's one thing that's helped you throughout this, long season of military career or military season, right? What thing did you do to get you this far in terms of mental health and adversity, and how were you resilient in that, or you're still working on it, whatever the case may be?
Yeah, I would say the one thing is trying to not let myself become inactive, right? So that's, staying involved with, friends and colleagues, having conversations with people, and then also just kind of still leaning into it, right? Don't become idle and, have no purpose, right? So continuing to seek purpose. Like there's been times in my career where, I've had, billets or jobs or whatever, where it's like this kind of blows, right? But finding a way to, still contribute to Marines, to society, to my family, to my friends, right? Trying to help other people out. And I think that's kind of, like my biggest thing is I look for ways to help other people because it kind of makes me feel better, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
A lot of times I'm going out of my way to help people for selfish reasons, right? Because it makes me feel good to help a friend out who's in need. So never feel bad about reaching out to somebody, right? Simon Sinek said, if I had a problem, you'd be the first person I call. And his buddy says, well, I would be upset if you didn't, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of how I feel. If I had a friend going through something and he didn't call me, I would be upset about that, right? Because you've taken my ability, the joy that I would receive in helping you, you've taken that opportunity away from me, right?
That's good.
And I think a lot of people feel that way, right? Maybe not a lot of people kind of admit that, but yeah, just kind of lean on each other. And while you're on active duty, you have all those resources, you have all those friends, you have the conversations daily in the P-way or whatever, right? So,
P-way.
But now, once you're out of service, right, you might not necessarily have those resources, right? So trying to stay tapped into those friends and, continue to find purpose, right? Always have goals, right? My mom said that since I was like, real young. Always have goals, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of like stuck with me. Is like, but I'm always like, what's the next thing? What am I working towards? I'm always working towards something, right?
Yeah, your time's coming close, man.
Yeah.
Well, just know that I have 2 shoulders. You can use one of them because the other one's for the wife. So remember that.
Appreciate it, brother.
Just remember that, ladies and gentlemen. We got Gunny B on the mic, and appreciate your time. I know you're a busy man. Everybody's pulling you with your chain and block. You're better you than me, right? But I am a little zealous, and I do appreciate what you do for this country, right? And yeah, man, if you ever need anything, just let me know, and I would love it as time goes on, right? If time permits, and you're still here tomorrow, later on next week. I'd love to get your opinions on other things too, get you back on the horn, and I think people would find pleasure in listening to you speak about what's going on there and therefore after.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, and maybe we'll do it again sometime.
Oh, it's no maybe. It's a win.
All right.
Don't play me. You're on my electronic Rolodex. Unless you block me, then I'm gonna come find you anyway. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is Pit Talk, pulling pits and pins with your host Gunny G, where service members help service members. Period. Follow, like, subscribe everywhere you get your podcast and on all social media platforms. Let us know what we're doing. I know we jumped around here, but I was excited like a little rabbit just kind of jumping around. I was too excited to get him on. Let us know how we're doing. Any criticism is good criticism. The last couple of weeks I've been getting a lot of comments. Appreciate them. I'll reply to most of them, but don't involve me in your guys' issues per se. I'm not a counselor or a middleman, but I appreciate the comments and I appreciate the feedback, and we'll move forward, ladies and gentlemen. We out. Podcast featuring active service members who discuss their thoughts and opinions on various issues surrounding military life, current events, and history. The statements heard here are the opinions of its members and guests. These do not necessarily reflect the views of the Department of Defense and are not endorsed or sponsored in any way. Listener, viewer discretion advised.